Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. The Board of Investments may revise its 1.75 trillion peso target as Trump's tariffs threaten Philippine exports and shake investor confidence. Tacloban's mayor demands transparency in the costly and controversial repairs of the San Juanico Bridge. And Disney lays off hundreds as streaming upends Hollywood's old business models. Let's take a look at how global financial markets performed overnight. U.S. stocks closed higher Monday despite a new round of trade tensions sparked by President Donald Trump's move to double tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. Trump accused China of violating a trade agreement from the Geneva talks, prompting him to raise tariffs to 50% effective Wednesday. China fired back, calling the claim groundless, vowing forceful measures to defend its interests.
Well, the stock market itself is really not moving in any one particular direction that dramatically. I think investors initially were responding to the president's doubling of the tariff on both steel and aluminum over the weekend, and wondering whether it'll be similar to the other announced increases that then get put on hold for a 3+ month period. So right now, investors are trying to figure out if this is something that's going to stick.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average inched up by 0.1%, the S&P 500 higher by 0.4%, and the Nasdaq rose 0.7%, led, of course, by tech stocks. Now, in Europe, markets ended mixed. London's FTSE 100 closed flat. Germany's DAX lower by 0.3%, and France's CAC 40 lower by 0.2%. Here at home, the Board of Investments, or BOI, is reassessing its 1.75 trillion peso investment target for this year, amid rising global trade uncertainty and U.S. tariff risks that could affect capital flows into the Philippines. The review comes as President Donald Trump's new tariffs stir concerns across emerging markets, including the Philippines, which relies heavily on trade and foreign investment to fuel growth. Despite headwinds, BOI chairwoman and Trade Secretary Cristina Roque says the agency remains focused on meeting its target. Speaking at the signing of a joint memorandum for the Investment Facilitation Network in Makati, Roque says an interagency meeting is set to strategize on how to attract more commitments. She adds that the meeting will focus on aligning strategies across agencies to keep the Philippines investor-friendly despite a shifting global landscape. House Speaker Martin Romualdez urges Congress to fast-track digital and tech bills as the 19th Congress enters its final stretch and pressure mounts to modernize the Philippine economy. He urged his colleagues to pass the E-Governance Act, which aims to integrate and digitize government services. Romualdez also renews his push for the country's first comprehensive law on artificial intelligence, saying the Philippines must embrace AI to stay competitive while safeguarding ethical standards and human dignity. This comes as ASEAN neighbors, including Singapore and Malaysia, accelerate their own AI frameworks to lure investment. And amid rising food costs, the Speaker reaffirms the House's full support for President Bongbong Marcos's 20 peso per kilo rice program, positioning it as a cornerstone of food security and social support ahead of possible rate cuts and widening fiscal constraints. The Department of Transportation, or DOTR, says the EDSA rehabilitation project will now cost less than the original 15 billion peso estimate following revisions to the plan. This comes after Malacanang ordered the project to be completed in just 6 months instead of 2 years, a move designed to minimize traffic disruption in Metro Manila's main transport artery. Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon says non-conventional construction methods will be used to cut both time and costs. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. earlier directed all agencies involved to pursue quicker, more affordable, and less disruptive options, with the original timeline set for completion in 2026. The Philippines is exploring new sources for rice imports, looking to India and Thailand to reduce dependence on Vietnam amid rising global prices. Agriculture officials say that the strategy aims to diversify supply, shield the country from future price shocks, and secure affordable stocks. Vietnam currently accounts for 90% of Philippine rice imports, but escalating costs and tighter supply globally are forcing a rethink. At the same time, the government is banking on a strong domestic harvest this year, with lower import requirements seen to ease pressure on the trade balance. President Marcos's food security push has already contributed to slower inflation, and officials say this multi-pronged strategy could sustain those gains. President Marcos is urging the National Irrigation Administration, or NIA, to be more responsive, calling for direct engagement with farmers, faster action, and greater accountability on the ground. The president led the turnover of nearly 800 million pesos worth of heavy equipment to NIA field offices to accelerate irrigation repairs and boost support for farmers nationwide. He emphasized that machinery like backhoes, dump trucks, and excavators must be used efficiently and responsibly, stressing that well-maintained irrigation systems are essential to raising yields, lifting farm incomes, and strengthening the Philippine agricultural base. As climate change disrupts weather patterns and water supply, Marcos says government service must be swift, transparent, and hands-on to safeguard food security and protect rural livelihoods. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is set to meet with Singapore Prime Minister Lawrence Wong in Malacanang tomorrow for bilateral talks aimed at strengthening strategic ties. The agenda includes cooperation on healthcare, climate change mitigation, and civil service reforms as both countries look to deepen policy alignment in a rapidly shifting region. Malacanang confirms that Wong's official visit runs from Tuesday to Thursday following a personal invitation from President Marcos. This marks Prime Minister Wong's first bilateral trip since taking office last month and the first visit by a Singaporean head of government to the Philippines since Lee Hsien Loong in 2017. Tacloban City Mayor Alfred Romualdez calls for full transparency and expert evaluation on the planned rehabilitation of the San Juanico Bridge, which links the islands of Samar and Leyte in eastern Visayas. In a video message posted on Facebook, the mayor asked if a study was conducted to determine the current state of the bridge. He hopes details of the study will be revealed to prevent speculation and allegations of corruption. The Tacloban City Council already declared a state of emergency due to the partial closure of the bridge.
Ako po to be quite frank, medyo nalilito din ako. Because I feel that the public should be given all the information pertaining to the condition of the bridge. Sino bang gumawa ng study na to? At bakit bigla-bigla na lang binigyan kami ng 48 hours para isara itong tulay na to? Dahil dyan ay maraming spekulasyon tuloy na there is something going on that hindi ka nais-nais, like corruption. I feel it is the duty of the national government to inform the public and tell them exactly who made the study, what the study says exactly, anong extent ng damage at gaano katagal nila gagawin talaga itong tulay na to.
An online booking platform is under fire for charging not just double but triple the usual airfare. Authorities now suspect that unscrupulous individuals may be taking advantage of the ongoing transport crisis triggered by the partial closure of the San Juanico Bridge amid structural repairs. Our mobility correspondent G. Baroga has the details.
The DOTR and Civil Aeronautics Board, or CAB, are preparing to file a case against AirAsia Move, an online booking platform accused of jacking up ticket prices that are 3 times higher than normal. Among those caught in the pricey mess is Leyte Congressman Richard Gomez and his wife, or MOC City Mayor Lucy Torres. They reportedly shelled out over 77,000 pesos for one-way tickets from Tacloban to Manila. That's almost 40,000 pesos per seat.
Magkano ang ticket papuntang Japan o Hong Kong? Tingin ko mas mura kaysa dyan. Definitely mas mura sa 40,000 pesos per person one way. Baka nga kung siswertein ka, may promo ka, makakalipad ka na ng West Coast ng Amerika ng ganito kamahal na ticket na halos 80 mil. So this is totally unacceptable.
The DOTR says this isn't just unfair, it's criminal. For comparison, regular fares with Philippine Airlines are around 12,000 pesos each.
Apparently, these platforms only pay PAL what is the price of PAL. So, yung 12,000 na yan. So, yung patong, yung tongpats, kay Air siya move lahat yun. And they are doing this at a time when there is a current transportation crisis in Tacloban.
The San Juanico Bridge is currently under repair and closed to heavy vehicles, making movement in summer and Leyte more challenging. The CAB has already issued a cease and desist order against AirAsia Move, but the company says the CAB doesn't have jurisdiction over them since they're a foreign-based travel agent, not an air carrier.
Sinapag-alaman namin itong AirAsia Move is a Malaysia-based travel platform. No, it's probably a sister company of AirAsia, no, but based in Malaysia.
Still, the DOTR isn't backing down. They've tapped the PNP anti-cybercrime group to help take the AirAsia Move site offline and are pushing ahead with formal charges.
I've also asked the CAB and the DOTR aviation group led by Captain Jim C. Jonkar, Undersecretary for Aviation, to immediately file economic sabotage, a criminal economic sabotage case against AirAsia Move. Because this is really economic sabotage. And CAB, I've also instructed CAB to investigate other online platforms that are doing the same thing, not just for Tacloban, but for other destinations as well.
The Secretary also urges travelers to book straight from airline websites where prices are government regulated and way more trustworthy. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
In a statement, AirAsia Move says its fare surge was due to a data issue and not price gouging, clarifying that pricing information comes from a third-party provider. Move CEO Nadia Omer says that the problem stemmed from a temporary syncing issue with their data partners, which caused airfare discrepancies on the platform. She stresses that AirAsia Move responded immediately and remains fully compliant with Philippine regulations governing online travel agencies. The Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, gives the green light to the 45.8 billion peso initial public offering of Manila Water Services Incorporated, marking one of this year's biggest equity listings. In a press release, the SEC says the IPO includes 1.93 billion primary shares and 354.7 million secondary shares from the firm backed by Bilyonaryo Manny Pangilinan. The secondary shares will be sold by the company's main shareholder, Manila Water Holding Company Incorporated. The IPO is set to list on the Philippine Stock Exchange on July 17th, with the offer period running from July 3 to the 9th. Tourism officials are beefing up security for South Korean visitors, the Philippines' largest and most lucrative tourist market. The Department of Tourism says safety is a top priority after welcoming over 1.5 million Korean travelers in 2024, generating billions in tourism revenue. Tourism Secretary Cristina Frasco is now pushing for a national task force on tourist safety and a zero-tolerance policy against crimes targeting visitors. Police presence has been strengthened in top destinations with thousands of officers trained and tourist assistance desks rolled out nationwide. Korean language hotlines and promotions are also being launched to ensure a safer, more welcoming experience for inbound travelers. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back. Let's check on how Asian markets are doing this Tuesday morning. Right now, the Nikkei 225 is in the green, higher by 0.6%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index much higher, up by 1.3%. Shanghai Composite up by 0.3%, and Singapore Straits Times Index is flat with an upward bias. Here at home, Philippine stocks kicked off the month of June on a positive note as investors look ahead to this week's inflation data. The PSEI rose just under 0.2%, however, closing at 63.52. The spotlight now turns to inflation. May inflation specifically. Figures are supposed to drop this Thursday, and if prices stay cool as expected, it could clear the way for a rate cut by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas on June 19th. Now, as of 10:21 this morning, the main gauge is in the green following the gains across Asia. The main gauge is higher by 0.7% to 63.98. The broader all shares index up as well, up by 0.5% to 37.63. As for the sub indices, all are trading in the green except for the financial counter, which is marginally lower, down by just 0.2%. Now, volume is at 187 million shares, and value is at 936. Just under $1 billion pesos. Now, in the currency market, the peso opened stronger at 55.62 to the US dollar, appreciating from its previous close of 55.70. Alliance Global Group Incorporated is extending its share buyback program by another year as it moves to boost shareholder value amid volatile market conditions. In a regulatory filing, the Kevin Tan-led conglomerate says its board has approved the extension of the buyback program until December 31 of 2026. The company is also increasing its buyback allocation by another 2 billion pesos, signaling confidence in its long-term fundamentals. Boost with a new green financing deal struck between Manila and Paris. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto has secured over 15 billion pesos in concessional funding from France to accelerate the country's shift toward a low-carbon resilient economy. The funding, part of a broader climate action program, aims to strengthen policy frameworks, protect vulnerable communities, and advance the Philippines' global climate commitments. It marks the latest step in a deepening Manila-Paris partnership to tackle environmental risks head-on. Recto says every euro will be invested to deliver tangible results, especially for Filipinos most exposed to climate dangers. Transport authorities are cracking down on covered license plates amid concerns they're being used to dodge NCAP, the no-contact apprehension system that uses CCTV to flag violations. Our mobility correspondent, G. Baroga, has the details.
A week since the no-contact apprehension policy, or NCAP, made a comeback, some motorists trended online for trying to beat the system with some, let's just say, creative tactics. Think tape, face masks, paper plates, and yes, even lives, all used to hide license plates. But the MMDA says not so fast. No matter how crafty the cover-up, the rules still apply. The agency turned over documents involving more than 50 motorists who covered their plates to the LTO, who plans to press charges. According to the agency, these antics violate the Motorcycle Crime Prevention Act.
Malinaw na malinaw po dito ay erasing, tampering, altering, forging, or imitating, or covering, or concealing a number plate may criminal liability, at ang imprisonment po nito ay 6 months to 2 years or a fine of 10,000.
And it's not just cameras doing the work. MMDA enforcers on the ground are also catching violators red-handed.
Once na-apprehend po kayo, we will be able to get all the details of your vehicle, and at that time, isasubmit po natin yan sa LTO.
Since the NCAP returned, MMDA says violations are actually going down. The usual suspects include disregarding traffic signs like stopping on pedestrian lanes, beating the red light, and illegal parking as well.
It's not just about apprehension, it's not just about violating the traffic rules and regulations. It's also, tandaan po natin, this is also for public safety.
As for running NCAP, MMDA says they're more than ready to handle it on their own, and there's no need for outside help. A motoring expert earlier argued that it might be better to tap private companies with more tech expertise.
the MMDA is capable enough already to implement the NCAP. So lahat po ng aming command center, ang aming NCAP, lahat po to sarili po ng aming ahensya. And I think it's more efficient that way, no? But then again, suggestions are suggestions po. Mapag-aaralan naman po yan.
The MMDA is also developing a text alert system and mobile app to notify drivers faster when they've been flagged under NCAP. Despite a few critics still in the mix, the MMDA says the NCAP has helped smooth out traffic flow in Metro Manila. The agency also believes it's slowly nudging drivers toward better road discipline. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
Commuters can still expect more buses and trains even with the EDSA repair work temporarily on hold. Transport officials say the additional units will help ease commuter loads despite the 1-month deferment of the major roadworks. Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon confirms that 100 more EDSA carousel buses will be rolled out to support daily riders. The EDSA rehabilitation was initially slated to start on June 13th and run for 2 years, prompting concerns from commuters, motorists, and lawmakers alike. But President Bongbong Marcos ordered a postponement, directing agencies to rework the plan and find faster, less disruptive solutions. We're taking a quick break. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back. Senate President Escudero is pushing back, denying claims that he's delaying Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial to hold on to power. A Politico report says Escudero wants to bury the trial with at least 10 senators backing him. Some are Duterte allies. Others just don't want to rock the boat. Escudero insists any decision on the impeachment should be left to the next Senate.
I don't see the connection whatsoever. No. Has nothing to do, especially given the fact that the 20th Congress will have a totally different composition. Walang mapapabura nito, wala rin itong masasaktan. Dahil ang pinaka-pwede lang naming magawa mula't mula ay mag-issue ng summons. So walang nawala, wala rin naidagdag. Walang binawian ng panahon, walang inambagan din ng panahon.
The articles of impeachment were supposed to be presented on Monday, but Escudero moved it to June 11 to make way for 12 priority bills before Congress adjourns. Vice President Sara Duterte says her bloodbath comment was, quote, about her own crucifixion and not a threat. She made the statement during a press conference in The Hague shortly after her 47th birthday celebration.
We have always said that the impeachment is a political persecution. It is the administration going after me after I resigned from the cabinet. And if it's a persecution, it's some sort of crucifixion against me. Diba? And so when there's a crucifixion, there's blood. So it's a bloodbath, my bloodbath. I think many misunderstood the word bloodbath, and many didn't want to understand. So I'm just sad that many people refuse to understand the context wherein I give statements.
The vice president adds her team is preparing for the impeachment trial and, quote, she herself is ready to face the impeachment court.
Emotionally, I don't feel anything at all anymore about the impeachment because the first time I heard it in November 2023 from the mouth of former Congressman Castro, I was already preparing for it. Physically, I prepare for everything by making sure that I get the 8 hours of sleep and the vitamins that the doctors recommend that I take.
Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro slams the delay of Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial, calling it a blatant political move after the midterm elections.
Nakakadismaya yung pag-urong ni Senate President Escudero diyan sa pagbasa ng articles of impeachment dahil talagang dinidribble, dinelay talaga ng husto itong impeachment trial na dapat nagsimula February pa yan. Kaya tayo ay nalulungkot at baka ang dahilan niyan, ako nakikita ko dahil katatapos ng eleksyon, may yung mga political career nila, yung mga posisyon na gusto nilang ma-assure, lalong-lalo na si Senate President Escudero, ay may kinalaman diyan. Kaya talagang alam naman natin yung composition ngayon ng Senado, talagang 552, malaki talaga yung gusto nilang kuhaning mga boto para makaposisyon sila diyan sa Senado. Parang ito talaga yung move for political career ng mga naandyan.
Speaking on PNC's agenda, Castro claims Senate President Chiz Escudero is stalling the trial to protect his position at the cost of public accountability. She calls the move a betrayal of trust and says Escudero has let the people down.
Para sa amin, hindi na talaga tumutugon. Kung ganito yung mga nangyayari, hindi na tumutugon sa kanilang sinumpaang tungkulin itong mga senador na ito na talagang maglilingkod sa taong bayan. Nagkaklamor yung taong bayan ng accountability. 80% na mahigit ang nagsasabi na dapat na ituloy itong impeachment na ito, pero pinipigilan ng mga senador, ng ilang mga senador. Kaya talagang pag-betrayal ang ginagawa ng mga ibang senador sa trust ng ating mga taong bayan.
Immigration operatives arrest 39 Chinese nationals at a major telecom office in Bonifacio, Global City, raising new concerns over foreign labor compliance in high-growth industries. Bureau of Immigration Commissioner Joel Anthony Viado says the operation uncovered several immigration violations, including lack of work permits and inconsistencies in visa sponsorship. The foreign nationals allegedly failed to present valid travel documents and held work visas backed by a different company, a clear breach of immigration rules. The incident sparks fresh calls for tighter oversight on foreign workers in strategic sectors as the government balances open investment with protecting local employment and regulatory. Welcome back. In the United States, Colorado police released a mugshot of a suspect in a violent attack that happened just over the weekend, leaving 8 people injured. 45-year-old Mohammed Soliman is accused in what the FBI calls a targeted terror attack at a pro-Israel event. On Sunday, he allegedly shouted "Free Palestine" and threw Molotov cocktails into the crowd, injuring at least 12 people. U.S. President Donald Trump vows to prosecute the suspect to the fullest extent of the law and links the attack to his push for tougher deportation policies. But officials have yet to confirm the suspect's immigration status as investigations continue amid growing tensions at political and religious events across the country. Elsewhere, the United Kingdom is set to ramp up military spending as it concludes a 10-month strategic defense review amid rising global security risks. Britain's Chief of Defense Staff, Tony Radakin, says this signals the end of the peace dividend era and the start of a new defense divided strategy. dividend strategy, rather. He says the review underscores the urgency to modernize, innovative, and reinvest in Britain's defense industrial base.
I think what we've just heard from the Prime Minister is the end of the peace dividend and what he referred to as now the defence dividend. So this is about an increased level of spending, 2.5% in 2027, an increased level of ambition for defence, that 3% when we step into the 2030s. And my job now is to deliver on that. It's a brand new defence review. It affirms the importance of nuclear. It affirms the importance of NATO and our role in NATO. And it also reflects that the threats that we face mean that we have to modernise and innovate at the same time. So this is a welcome day for defence, and our job now is to get on with delivering.
The move comes as geopolitical uncertainty grows and after U.S. President Donald Trump warned Europe to take greater responsibility for its own security, prompting key allies to reassess defense and spending commitments. Qatar is pledging $7 billion to help Syria rebuild its power infrastructure in what could be a turning point for the war-torn economy. But experts warn that the plan could fall apart unless Damascus can stop armed groups from looting power cables. It's Syria's biggest foreign investment commitment since U.S. President Donald Trump lifted sanctions on Damascus last month. But for Syrians to see real improvement, the government must first repair its crippled transmission grid. Two-thirds of that grid is either destroyed or severely damaged, with rebuilding costs estimated at $5.5 billion. Now, Disney is cutting several hundred jobs across film, TV, and corporate finance as Hollywood's biggest names rethink their business models amid streaming disruption and profit pressure. The layoffs affect multiple teams globally, including film and TV marketing, casting, and development. It's the latest move in Disney's push to streamline operations as legacy media giants shift from cable to digital platforms. The cuts follow a much larger round in 2023 when Disney slashed 7,000 jobs to reduce costs by $5.5 billion. Despite the layoffs, Disney's most recent earnings in May exceeded expectations thanks to a strong quarter for Disney Plus and solid returns from theme parks. Disney shares up 21% since that report, fell slightly on Monday to $112.62 as investors weigh long-term profitability against growth in streaming. And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.